Hey everybody, welcome to Hills and Gills. Chuck here with you at 1:38 a.m. in the morning. I'm finishing up my last jig tie before the holidays, and we're going to be tying up what I call the jailbreaker right here. This is a awesome little jig for crappie, and we're going to be using all synthetic hair on this. We'll be going over everything while we're tying this jig. But when it comes to like crappie jigs, even my smallmouth jigs, I've started moving over more toward the synthetic hair because it just puts off a killer action in the water. I still love my bucktail, but it's hard to beat this synthetic type hair. And we putting us a nice big feather back there for a kicker for when you're jigging in those trees around that weed bed or just swimming it in. So guys, let's tie up the jailbreaker. Okay, before we get started tying this jig, let's go over the jig head itself. If you're interested in picking some of these up, these are called, I think, Aki jigs. You can pick them up at Walmart. You get 10 in a pack. This is the 1 16th with a sickle hook. Now, the color pattern, you can see right here, this white and black that I done on it. The eyes, I picked up off Temu. Just search like 3D fishing eyes or fishing eyes, and they'll pop up for you on their app or on their website. They're super cheap, and they look really nice. Now, I put a base coat of white LA colors down, and then I used a top coat of this black crackle right here to get that pattern on that. We're going to be using the A thread today by Do It in the black. And we're going to start out by just running all the way down to where the bend of that sickle hook starts. So we're going to go right down to the bend and work our way back up right to the point of the hook. The next thing that we're going to be adding is a feather, and right here is what we're going to be using. Now you got these longer ones down through here that I use for like musky jigs, flies, bass jigs, etc. But if you get right around the base down here and dig under these feathers, you'll find the much smaller ones ideal for these smaller type jigs. And I've already found one and plucked him off there, and these are ideal for like when you're swimming that jig along or you're working it in some brush for those crappie. It gives it a nice tail action, and you don't have to worry about putting no kind of trailer onto your jig here. You just get it out of your box and start fishing with it. Now I want this to come back about 1 inch or 1.5 inches off the back of that jig there. So we're going to measure him up here. And then all we're going to do is just pluck away some of these feathers, exposing that stem there. That way we can get a good tie into it. Right here's what we got. And you want the top side of the feather pointing downward toward the hook. So we're going to lay it right up on top of the shank of the hook. Give him a couple loose turns till we get him locked in good where he won't try to twist around on us. And then apply some pressure and just push down and just give some nice tight wraps. Now the first thing I do when I want to get one of these tails on like this right here, I like hitting it with some UV resin. If you don't have any UV resin, go with some crazy glue, because we know that bluegill, panfish in general, they hit hard, and sometimes if you don't add like a little UV resin or something to your tie, it can sometimes pull out from under that collar that you build up there. So we'll hit it with a UV light, locking him in there. That's nice. And then the next thing that we're going to be adding, and this is by Furry Valley. Right here's what the pack looks like if you're interested in picking some of this up yourself. And for like 25 bucks, I got a gallon bag of so many different patterns of synthetic hair to tie with. And it comes in packs like this in a gallon bag. Just search that right there on Amazon, and you should be able to pull that up there. And we're going to go ahead, and it ain't going to take much, just a small pinch, because we're going to add some chenille to this as well. So about right there is what we're looking for to go right along with that feather there. And I like just twisting it around. It makes it easier to work with. And then just snip him off here with the scissors. We want it to come back about halfway back on that tail. We don't want it to go and completely cover that tail. We want that tail to have action in the water when we're jigging with it. So that right there looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and get this excess cleaned up. And then we're just going to lay it right on top of that shank. And we're just going to kind of press down and press it right over top of it. And we're going to give it a couple wraps here. Some loose wraps first. Then we're going to push down, push forward. That way it'll go all the way around, covering that hook. And then we're just going to lay the tight wraps to it. Next thing that we're going to be adding on this jig here, we're going to be adding some crystal flashing. I'm going to be going with like a white pearl type. I'm going to be using about 3 on each side because this is a smaller type flashing. Make sure that it's even down through there, and then we're going to lay it right against the side of this jig, and we want it to go back right where the hair ends. Lock him down with 3 or 4 nice tight wraps there. And I know that you, as I said before, that you can go and wrap around the collar with this, but I prefer doing it this way. To me, it just lays better for me. For each is their own, how they put this flashing on. And then, again, we'll just repeat the process. 3 or 4 nice tight wraps there. There we go. And then we'll just go ahead and clean this up real fast. Then squeeze back on it and give it some nice real tight wraps, building that collar up down here right behind that jig head, and then right back toward the back and right back toward the front. We got a couple little pieces of that flashing sticking out, which is no big deal. We can just clean that up. Okay, the next thing we're going to be adding is, this is by Lady Fly Tire. We're going to be adding a black chenille to this. We ain't going to be adding no flashy look to it. It's got enough flash in it with this crystal flashing here. And just search Lady Fly Tire on eBay. She's got a lot of different patterns in this, a lot of feathers and stuff. Go over and check her out. I buy a lot of my jig and fly tie materials off of her. And we're just going to cut this down about 4 inches of it is all we need here for this tie. We're just going to remove some of this and exposing that thread. We're going to put it right back behind that jig head. Give him a couple wraps there, locking him in. And then we're just going to crisscross it here a couple turns, making sure it's locked in good. And then we're just going to go ahead and start wrapping this right down toward that synthetic hair. Now we want to go back to about right where the collar ends with nice tight wraps. And then we're going to work our way right back up toward the back of the jig head. There we go. And then we're going to give him a couple of turns, crisscrossing again, locking that chenille in. And then we can go ahead and cut this excess off right here. There we go. And then we'll build that collar up. And last but not least, we'll add our UV resin. And we'll go right around the back of that jig head, letting that soak in. That'll hold that collar into place for us. Hit it with the UV light. Well, there you go, the little jailbreaker crappie jig iron, a 1/16. Simple little tie, super effective, looks amazing in the water, and crappie loves this right here. So I hope you give this little tie right here a try. I don't think you'll be disappointed in it. And if you like the video, hope you give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. We're growing each and every day. All of our social media is down in the description. And guys, stay safe out there on the water. Happy jig tying. And we will see you right back here in the next one.